As you go through the process of writing your various papers and essays, you will want to add all the citations necessary to prove any point that you want to make. As you could see in the example that we just researched, I made a claim. I said an astounding number of people attended the World's Fair. The next thing I did was add a proving statement, and I included a little citation to show where that information originated. Now, let's say that I have completed my entire project. I've added lots of other citations, and I'm ready to create the actual works cited page. First, I want to make sure that all of the citations are correct and that I have included everything. I don't ever want to see my name on a plagiarism list, because if I opened it and I looked at it, whether I referenced it or not, it's still on my list. So when I'm through, I'm going to click Export All. And now I have a choice to make. I can export this either as a Word document or as a Google Doc. Let's look at both ways. Let's start by exporting this as a Word document. I'm going to click Word document and I'm going to click Export. Here it is. Look how pretty it all is. It's all at the margin. The second line is indented. It says clearly Works Cited. And I'm going to enable editing just in case I duplicated something or there's any kind of problem with anything else. So I enabled the editing. Now it looks perfect until I move from normal and I move from Times New Roman and I move from the spacing. Let's say I click over here. Now all of a sudden it's gone Cleflui. If I go here, it's a mess. Over here. And if I keep going on, it's going to continue to make changes to that format, and it's going to look completely wrong. So I want to make sure that I stay right over here. And look at that. Sometimes it might do that. So what do I want to make sure of? I want to make sure that I stay in normal. I want to make sure that I stay in Times New Roman, 12 font, and that everything is double spaced. Remember, there are only 2 spaces under Works Cited. Sometimes formatting will happen and it will double space things. It'll take things off the margin. So I want to make sure that I remember to always stay under that normal category. And if I see it go wrong and it looks wrong when I paste it into my document, then I can make those adjustments to make sure that it returns to this proper formatting. Notice that none of these URLs are blue. We don't want any hyperlinks in a citation page, none at all. So if we saw some, let's see what would happen if maybe I messed up the heading or somehow it set those off. Let's look. Let's say it does this somehow. Whenever it copies and pastes into my essay, or whenever I do anything with it, all of a sudden I see hyperlinks lit up. We want to make sure we remove all of those hyperlinks. So I simply highlight this, and I click this, and I remove the hyperlink by clicking right there, remove the hyperlink. Come down to the next one, highlight that, right click, remove hyperlink. Highlight this, right click, remove hyperlink. Now I want to check it and make sure everything is correct, and then I'm ready to copy this into my essay or submit this for the assignment. Now let's go back and take a look and see what happens if we export this as a Google Doc. Back to my list, export all, and I'm going to export all as a Google Doc. I connected my Easybib to my Google account, and it says hooray, and I'm going to view the document. And now it's going to come up as a Google Doc. But still, we want to make sure that nothing is live in here and that everything is properly formatted. Okay, that looks good. And when that's correct, then we want to make sure that we copy that or add our name or whatever we're doing for the assignment. And again, we see normal text, Times New Roman, 12 font, properly spaced. Let's just see what happens if we happen to hit something else. Now that's a mess. That's not correct. Let's say we went over that. That's not correct. You see what happens if somehow we go off of, that's not the way it looks. It doesn't ever have anything bold like that. Wouldn't have that. Okay, so we want to make sure that we check and we are in normal text. But what happened just then? That's right, it took this out of Times New Roman. So we have to go back over here and we have to make sure that this is in Times New Roman. And that's why editing is so important, to make sure that it's edited properly. And those are the last steps that we do whenever we have our Easybib citation page ready. We don't just assume it's right, we take a second and edit it. Now that's the nuts and bolts of Easybib and the necessity of proving the statements that we make, all of us make, that I make. We want to make sure everything that is outside my own personal experience is proved. And that just becomes a second nature, easy thing to do whenever I start writing and I think, did I prove that? Did I need to prove that? Did I write a vague statement like a ton of people? Or everyone says, everyone is 9 billion people. I'm not qualified, nor is anybody I can find anywhere qualified to say what 9 billion people think, see, feel, experience, or know. I can only write what I can prove. Now, I wrote an extraordinary number of people attended the World's Fair in 1851. And I know what you're saying. Why is that extraordinary? You're right. I might have to prove why that was extraordinary. And I would do that by saying the entire population of England was X number of people. And somehow 4,500,000 of them went to the World's Fair. And then I would go on and maybe prove that some more. But for the purposes of the essay, whatever essay I'm writing, that determines how deep I need to go into my proving statements. If I'm writing an essay about all world fairs or world fairs from a certain period of time, I don't need to delve too deeply into why that number was extraordinary, why this or that or the other. I have a proving piece of evidence there. If the reader gets excited, they can go to the source that I quoted and they can find out more information. So as you go through the course, you're going to find where an Easybib project is required. And you want to make sure you follow these steps, make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's, and make sure anything you say, it can be proved.